Kansas State isn't just producing great running backs, they are running back U of the Big 12. And if you disagree, I've got proof to shut that down right now.
You are Locked On Kansas State, your daily podcast on the Kansas State Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Christian Rauh, and thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen every single day. Welcome back to my everydayers. We are going to dig into some college football in this one. It should be an interesting episode for sure, because I have a huge take, and I don't even really think it's a take. I think it's a statement, and we're going to get to the bottom of it and move forward as being running back U in all of the Big 12. You talk about the different programs that have that kind of moniker with them. You think of maybe in the past, Penn State was known for linebacker. You have heard that before. When I was in the military out on the West Coast, I always heard, and I never agreed with this one, but I always heard that USC liked to call themselves quarterback U. Again, never agreed with it, but that's what they talked about in Southern California. I'm here to tell you that Kansas State is running back U, and that's no surprise that we are continuing that trend in the Chris Klieman era. I'm not even going to talk about Darren Sproles. I'm not going to talk about Daniel Thomas. I'm not going to get into those type of players from the past, because I think I can prove it to you from 2019 moving forward that this program is on the right track in the Chris Klieman era, and it's not going away anytime soon with the fact of being running back U. Where this all really stemmed from was an article coming out from On3 earlier or late last month. Drew Galloway put it out from kstateonline.com, talking about a running back, a Texas running back, high school running back that received an offer from Kansas State, and he called Kansas State running back U of the Big 12. And it made a lot of pondering, put out a lot of questions, and obviously it started asking the question, is this actually true? And I couldn't think of anything otherwise. The high school recruit, by the way, his name is Davis Penn. He's going to be in the 2026 class. He did receive an offer on January 27th, according to the report of On3. And he said, quote, "I was super stoked. That's running back U of the Big 12. So he also went out and gave a nod to Coach Brian Anderson, said he was a super authentic coach. I'd like to get into more of the recruiting side, maybe in a different episode, because we do have to talk about some of these offers that are coming in. We got to get into more recruiting on this show, because there's a lot to talk about with not only the new freshman class that's coming in, with this momentum that continues on from this show and from the season coming in. As I'm so excited, I didn't even put the overlay up. So there you go, folks. But I do think that there is a true solid reason why you can say that this is the best place to go in the Big 12 conference when it comes to producing running backs. And I'm going to get into it. And we're going to get a little bit of numbers. We're going to get a little bit nerdy, if you will. And then I'm going to go ahead and give you the take. And I think the numbers are going to speak for himself. I think the proof is in the pudding. But based off the recent success, what running back wouldn't want to come to Kansas State? That is really my number one take in this one. And you ask the question, is Kansas State running back U of the Big 12? Well, if you look at the past Kansas State running back success under Coach Klieman since he's got here in 2019, that has proven to be the fact. We go to 2019 with James Gilbert. He transferred in from Ball State, only played one season for the team, but that was Chris Kleiman's first year. Kind of needed that little bit of a bridge, if you will. He led the team with 737 yards, 6 touchdowns, and he found his way to the NFL. Now, he was an unsigned free agent with the Los Angeles Rams for the 2020 season. We all know 2020 was like a weird time, so we don't know if he actually got the success or the opportunities that we might have saw him in any other year. Regardless, he also played for the Pittsburgh Maulers for the USFL in 2022. So he had opportunities for football at the next level, okay? Keep that in mind. That is a growing trend that we are going to talk about in this episode. In case you're wondering, by the way, and I didn't know this until I did some research of this episode, I didn't know where James Gilbert was, what he's doing these days. So when I did research this, I figured I'd share it with you guys in case you didn't know as well. He is now the running back coach for D2 Pittsburgh State, the Gorillas. So pretty cool. Congratulations to James Gilbert on that. I always liked watching him play in that one season with Kansas State, and makes you wonder what we would have had if he would have played not with Ball State, but maybe with Kansas State in the years past. It's always fun to think about stuff like that, but there you have it. There's the first reason why under Coach Chris Klieman, and that's probably the smallest of reasons, but why running back you is the case. Now, obviously, this next one is going to just, I'm going to say the name, and you're going to say, yep, of course it is. Deuce Vaughn. Deuce Vaughn was absolutely electric at his time with Kansas State. In 2020, 2021, and 2022, he was absolutely insane. 642 yards, 7 touchdowns in 2020. 2021 led the team 1,400 yards, 1,404 to be exact, 18 tutties. And then in 2022, he had 1,558 yards with 9 touchdowns. This is just his rushing stats. I don't even have to get in his receiving stats. We know how great that was as well, but that was just his rushing stuff. You all know, I'm sure, that he now is currently part of the Dallas Cowboys, and in my opinion, has a solid chance at making an impact this coming season with the new head coach coming in, with the new coaching staff. Might I remind you, is former offensive coordinator Connor Riley that is involved with that, the new offensive line coach for the Dallas Cowboys. Offensive line and running backs kind of go in tandem. We kind of talked about that with the other running backs that are entering the NFL draft, which we're going to get to in just a minute, and the potential of maybe them landing with Dallas because of the new and familiar faces that are now with that organization. But Deuce Vaughn, I think, is a prime example to show the talent, the homegrown talent of starting with Kansas State and building up his entire career and becoming this NFL talent on the field. It was just an absolutely fantastic career at Kansas State, helped the team get a Big 12 championship in 2022. They don't do it without Deuce Vaughn. Absolutely, they don't do it. And I know that he had some injuries towards the end of 2022, but they still don't do that without Deuce Vaughn. And of course, DJ Giddens. Obviously, we just said goodbye to DJ Giddens 1 year early. He did enter the NFL draft. But 2022, 518 yards and 6 touchdowns. That whole team, by the way, if you mentioned, 2022 with Vaughn and Giddens, that whole team was absolutely crazy. The Big 12 championship team, they were wild on the ground. Absolutely wild. Over 2,900 yards rushing and 32 rushing touchdowns in 2022. If you need a nice little reminder of what this team is capable of, what they have shown in the past to be under Chris Klieman. That type of excitement. Can we get to that again in 2025? We'll talk about that later on in this show. To finish up DJ Giddens' stat line, just on the ground, 1,226 yards in 2023, 10 touchdowns, and then last season, 1,343 yards and 7 touchdowns. Did you notice a pattern, especially with Deuce Vaughn and DJ Giddens? Did you notice a pattern? Because why wouldn't you want to come to Kansas State if you are a premier running back recruit in the country, especially the last 2 cases, as I mentioned, in Giddens and Vaughn? There is proven progress each and every year. You saw the stats move up slowly. You slowly saw them creep up, obviously more responsibilities, but that didn't change. The workload got maybe tougher, maybe got more, but they rose to the occasion. That means this coaching staff knows how to pick the right players. They know how to coach the right players, and their players work in this system. How can you not be excited about that, folks? But then how could you not want to come play for a team like Kansas State if you're a running back looking for a home in 2026, 27, you name it, in this Chris Klieman era? Because really the progress, that's something that is most definitely looked at by scouts and coaches at the next level. And Vaughn has found a home in Dallas, as we have already mentioned. And to me, I think just wait till next season. I think there's going to be we're going to see a big step forward from Deuce Vaughn. I really do feel that way. So just hang tight on that. And then Giddens is going to shock the league with his talents. I absolutely do think that as well. Some that are already being overlooked. And we've seen that just this offseason. We talked about it before the NFL Combine. We had an episode on how I believe that every single Kansas State prospect that was entering the draft was being overlooked and overshadowed. And I think they proved the haters wrong in Indianapolis. We're going to get to that in just a second for DJ, but maybe not for long. Maybe not for long. This past weekend, some of those eyes were opened. And if who were doubting the former Wildcats running back, we will chat about that. Let's do that right now, actually, right here on Locked On Kansas State. Well, the Armada Team of the Week is brought to you by our friends at Nissan and the all-new 2025 Nissan Armada. Each week, our Locked On college basketball experts are picking one team that stands apart, from top-seeded stars to the unexpected upsets. These guys showcase the strength and sheer power needed to push their team forward. This week's Armada is clear-cut Team of the Week are the Houston Cougars. Since joining the Big 12 last season, the Cougars have gone a combined 33-4 in conference games, winning the regular season title by multiple games both years. There is no team in college basketball that is more capably embodies the rugged Armada than Kelvin Sampson's squad. Houston's tenacious defense leads the nation in fewest points allowed per game for the second straight season. When it comes to the Armada, they say go forth and conquer, and that's exactly what the Houston Cougars have done here. It is clear that our Team of the Week is out here ready to conquer the road ahead with confidence, just like you can in the all-new Nissan Armada or any of the Nissan's outstanding vehicles. Take Nissan Armada, Rogue, or Pathfinder and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. And welcome back to Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast. And I thank you so much for making Locked On Kansas State your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. March is here, folks. And there is no better way to be more informed about college basketball, be the most informed college basketball fan throughout this madness. It is one of the best months of the year when it comes to college athletics. Find Locked On College Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. We're talking Kansas State football in this one and how this program is running back you. And we just got a little bit more of a taste of it this past weekend in Indianapolis with the NFL Scouting Combine happening. The NFL Draft is just a month and a few days away towards the end of April in Green Bay. It's going to be an exciting time for at least 3 Kansas State Wildcats. Jacob Parrish, we're going to talk Siegel as well. And of course, DJ Giddens, the running back that was electric in his time with Kansas State. And many people had him not even in the top 10 of their big boards for the position heading into the combine. That has changed. There is no doubt in my mind that has changed, because what he did at the NFL combine definitely raised some eyebrows, turned some heads, whatever you want to say, it did. And he had a fantastic combine, and he was just electric. According to the relative athletic score of the NFL Combines, some statistics that have been used, DJ Giddens had a 9.89 of a ranking. According to that, it is ranked 22nd out of 1,909 running backs between 1987 and last weekend in 2025. Out of all the running backs since 1987 that has competed in the combine, this overall score, this RAS score, he goes 22. Absolutely insane. What an elite combine he had. 40-yard dash is the biggest thing that really stepped up the DJ Giddens resume, if you will, because a lot of people questioned if he would have that get up and get out speed, open speed, whatever the case you might be. He ran a 4.43. Wasn't the fastest out of all the running backs, but it proved that he has what it takes to get up and go. One of the biggest questions that was on his prospect card heading into Indianapolis. What is the biggest question you're going to have for DJ Giddens now? That's a really good question. He's already has fantastic vision, probably the best vision out of any running back entering the NFL draft. That is not a bias, folks. That is just facts. Now you add this great 40-yard dash on it. His 20-yard splits were electric as well. His 10-yard split was insane, 1.56. His speed is no longer going to be questioned after what we saw at this combine. And his composite explosion grade, which includes the vertical and the broad jump, was listed as elite, not just great. His 40-yard dash, as great as it was and how good the numbers are, was just listed as, quote, great. The composite explosion grade was listed as elite. His vertical was a 39.5. His broad jump was a 10-10. I mean, fantastic numbers here by DJ Giddens in that. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, that just proves even more that this program can build running backs. What DJ Giddens proved the last couple seasons just helps build upon that narrative even more heading into the new year, heading into the next recruiting cycle, whatever the case may be. Running backs need to pay attention, and not just Penn, not just the Texas running back that made the statement. Multiple other running backs that are going to be offered by Kansas State the next few seasons need to put it on notice that every single starting running back that has led the team in rushing since Coach Klieman has took over as the head coach in 2019 has had a shot at the NFL. Every running back recruit that tries to come to Kansas State at the Power 4 level has the dream of entering the NFL. You can't tell me otherwise. So why would you not want to come to Kansas State? DJ Giddens also won the all-draft team. It was really insane. I mean, out of every single player, I mean, the numbers just show it right there, right? The numbers just prove it on how great he really was. But he was awarded the all-draft team by a couple sites. He obviously just did some really good things at the combine. Like I said, the 40-yard dash wasn't the fastest. It was the sixth fastest out of all running backs, but he didn't have to be the fastest. He has so many other skill sets that benefit him compared to everything else. His vertical was second, and so was his broad jump. That's where the elite portion comes in. But the main takeaway, as always, when it comes to combines is going to be the 40. The biggest thing people look at is going to be that 40, and really for good reason, because you want to see if he has that speed. You want to make sure that when you go to that next level, you have that type of opportunity to do so. So, I mean, I get it. I might not, always like it, but I get it. Now, moving forward, DJ Giddens, I think we just helped him. I think it helped him move up into the draft. I think we are talking about a potential day 3 pick. Is there a chance that he sneaks in the day 2? I still think that's highly unlikely just because of how deep this running back draft is. I do think he rised up the boards quite a bit. He is no longer outside the top 10 when it comes to running backs. I would be shocked if 6 went above him now. Could I see him maybe still being outside the top 5? Yeah, probably, because NFL scouts have a lot of names. And, although the combine is an interesting weekend, it's not a tell-all thing. It answered a main question for DJ Giddens, which I think is super important, which was his speed. But a lot of people still need to go off the tape, and for good reason. Now, plus side for DJ Giddens, his tape don't lie. His tape's fantastic. And what we saw with his numbers that we talked about in the first segment, it proves that just as well. So DJ Giddens off to a really good start in his path to his professional career, heading to the NFL. Again, we're going to hear his name in late April in Green Bay, whatever name he goes to. I'm curious, though, what team do you think he would be the perfect fit on? There's 32 teams. It doesn't have to be your favorite one. But if you're an NFL fan as well, I expect you probably are. If you're also a fan of college football, that's actually kind of 50-50. Not all college fans are pro fans, but if you are, let me know in the comment description below, what team do you think would be a perfect fit for DJ Giddens? Let's put this all together now. We talk about how this team is running back you of the Big 12, how it has been running back you since Coach Klieman took over in 2019. What needs to happen to make sure that that continues in 2025 and beyond? Can Dylan Edwards continue to hold the crown as running back you for the Wildcats and for the Big Ten? Let's finish that up right here on Locked On Kansas State. And welcome back to Locked On Kansas State, your daily Kansas State Wildcats podcast, Running Back You, the official podcast of Running Back You. Okay, let's get into it. Kansas State running backs in 2025. Obviously, Dylan Edwards, Joe Jackson, which, by the way, we're going to talk about this more as the season goes on. But I think Joe Jackson might be the most underrated player on the roster, and you wait and see for that one. But the main running back one is going to be Dylan Edwards, and for good reason. What he showed us in 2024 in the first year in the system after leaving Deion's Colorado, I mean, just proved to me that he has what it takes to be another running back in the system that can take that next step forward and be a running back on Sundays. He has what it takes. Now, his size, sure, you can say that's a question mark, but his speed and the way he plays overcomes that. And that's the exciting part about it. That is the super exciting thing about it. In 2023 with Colorado, he only had 321 yards rushing. He did have some good receiving yards at almost 300 yards. The receiving yards is the only thing that he did not improve on in 2024. I'm sure that will be a difference maker in 2025, especially with Matt Wells as the new OC by himself. I think that's going to be a huge thing. I think he's going to open up Avery Johnson. I think he's going to open up Dylan Edwards, Jace Brown, you name it. But in 2024, he stepped up even as running back 2 behind DJ Giddens, rushed for over 500 yards, 546 to be exact, 5 touchdowns on the ground. He also picked up 2 receiving touchdowns, 133 yards through the air, and had a punt return touchdown. He was electric on special teams. He had better yards on special teams. He had 15 returns for almost 300 yards, averaging just under 20 yards per return. And as I mentioned, did have a punt return touchdown in which he averaged 14 yards per punt return on 10 of them this last season, The Thunder and Lightning combo. And that was probably my favorite thing that I heard from the Rate Bowl. The announcers weren't always the best thing in the Rate Bowl, and I think we're seeing that with some of these other announcers we're getting from basketball games lately, as the announcers aren't always the best thing to listen to in some of these games. But one of the best things that I heard in the Rate Bowl was comparing Dylan Edwards and Joe Jackson together, and they called them Thunder and Lightning. And I think that was absolutely perfect, because that's exactly what I think they're going to be in 2025. I think they're going to be a dynamic duo. And what we have seen in the past, if I go back to the very first segment of this show, when I talked about how crazy it was in 2022 for that team with Adrian Martinez, with Deuce Vaughn, with DJ Giddens, and they found a way to rush for over 2,900 yards and 32 rushing touchdowns. Now, I don't know if we're going to get that far. I don't know if that's going to be the case. We're going to have a very mobile Avery Johnson. Dylan Edwards is going to, if he gets outside the tackles, I mean, might as well start waving goodbye, because it's very hard to catch him. And as I mentioned initially in the beginning of this segment, I think Joe Jackson is one of the most underrated players, not maybe on this team, but maybe in the conference as well. While we're speaking at a Big 12 level, Joe Jackson might be one of the most underrated players in all of the Big 12. If you can get back to that dynamic duo like you had in 2022 with a great mobile quarterback, with a great rushing duo, you have the opportunities to do so. And I think we might see that type of thing materialize in front of our eyes. Oh, by the way, guess what? In 2022, we won the Big 12 championship. What am I predicting to happen this year? Us to get right back to that spot in 2025. All thanks to running back you? Very well could be. So I hope I helped you prove the case here, because there is not another program in the Big 12 that has this type of running back success over the last 5 or 6 seasons since Coach Klieman has been at the helm. And I know you can go farther back. And for the sake of this episode, I kept it just as the coaching staff, because you might as well keep it to now, because this is what we got. And the future, just like with the last couple seasons, have looked super bright at that position. Let me know what you think in the comment description below. While you're there, click subscribe, because we are on our way to 700 subscribers. And if you subscribe, I keep my job. All right, folks, thank you so much. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And this has been Locked On Kansas State.